Oh, hey listener, David here, host and creator of the Retro Rumble podcast, here to remind you that this episode, episode 13, is a continuation of episode 12. In episode 12, I was joined by Anthony and Taylor from the Power Up podcast to discuss our personal top 5 first-person shooter games. Much discussion and debate was had, and being that all three of us were big fans of the genre, the show ended up running over 3 hours long. And so, dear listener, we decided to split it into 2 parts. In this episode, we continue part way through number 3 choices, so I would recommend that you go back and listen to episode 12 before diving into this one. For those who have already listened to episode 12, let's get back to the discussion with myself, Anthony and Taylor, and our top 5 first-person shooter games.
My number 3 or Anthony's?
Taylor, you can resume your previous place.
Okay.
Well, Anthony kind of leapfrog you.
Yeah, I thought you
were
Daniel for some reason.
He
That's
was
fine.
eager.
So my number 3 is BioShock Infinite.
Oh, damn it. Oh, I should have gone first. That's all good. It's all good.
Why
it's all
was
good.
that? Was that your number 3?
It's going to be one of them.
Oh god. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
it's BioShock.
It's cool. It's fine if you got it as well, because it just means both talk about it. That's all.
Yeah.
Both give your views on it.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, yeah. So there's a lot to be said about the game. So BioShock, the very first game, was such a culturally defining game for that generation and everything, especially as far as FPSs were concerned. And one of the most notable things about BioShock 1 was the opening to it. You know, for those of you who don't know, your plane crashes in the middle of the ocean, and you swim to this lighthouse, and then all of a sudden you're in this opposite, or it's like you're in this kind of subnautical vehicle pod, and you're just kind of descending to this very idealistic city.
Sorry to butt in. I was under the impression that you crash your plane in the water and you find the actual entrance in the water, like a kind of like a submersed portal or lift or.
It's kind of like that, as far as like you go to the lighthouse and then you go down the lift.
I'll be honest with you, I kind of scoffed at it a little bit because I thought to myself, in the entire ocean, it's in the Atlantic Ocean if I understand right. In the entire ocean, he crashes right next to this door. You know, that was my initial thought. But then again, you mentioned now that he actually swims to land, and that actually.
Well, no, okay. To be fair, you swim like 100 feet to a lighthouse that you crashed by in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
But then again, you know,
I kind of
it is
think
a building. It makes sense.
I kind of think the lighthouse is like a figment of his imagination, kind of thing.
It might be, yeah.
It does sound like it does. Sorry,
discussion of the years.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then the departure towards BioShock 2 was you weren't given all that impressive of an opening type thing, you know?
Or an ending of one, really.
Yeah. But
BioShock is another series I've not tried.
Yeah, and then you go to BioShock Infinite, right? Which is outside of Rapture. It's you know, water bad, sky good.
Columbia.
Is the design principle. Yeah, you go up to Columbia. The opening of it is a little bit of nostalgia bait there. Is, you know, you go to a lighthouse also, but instead of going down, you go up. And like you're in this rocket, this 1912 rocket pod. And you're just at the literal, like, you're just kind of taped to your seat type thing. And, yeah, and there's a bunch of symbolism regarding, like, ascension and everything, if you're familiar at all with the atmosphere of that game. And,
Rapture.
Yeah, the thing is that, so Rapture looked interesting, but Columbia looks absolutely expansive.
And beautiful as well. Like
and absolutely beautiful. And then from there, you know, you're just slowly introduced to the world, you know, through a lot of visual storytelling and everything, which it does incredibly well.
Is it just heaven?
It's kind of it's an Americanized heaven. It's an American exceptionalized heaven.
It's called Rapture.
It's
ever so slightly ham-fisted, but
Rapture is the underground city, the underwater.
Or was the underwater city?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Columbia is
Columbia's
is the Sky City
Yeah.
in Infinite.
Yeah.
And so anyway, my pick is Infinite over Bioshock. Bioshock 2
100%.
I do kind of prefer the setting a little bit, but I just think Bioshock Infinite is a much better Bioshock game in general, which is as strange as it sounds and everything. Yeah, it's technically the third in the series. And yeah, eventually, once you make it up to Columbia, you slowly, and as the game progresses, you get to see like the events of what's been going on shape the city around you as you try to go through it, and it gets more and more chaotic over time as you go through it, partially due to your actions, partially due to the actions of other factions. But it's like the thing is, you're not just solely the one responsible for the world either. A lot of other factions are kind of triggered to do, violent things based on your actions also, and that also causes destruction. And then the ending. I don't want to spoil it because it's still a fairly recent game, but good lord, that ending and the expansion packs too that brought you back to Rapture.
Never played them.
So good. So good.
I've been wanting to jump into Infinite again because I've only played it once.
Yeah. I think my favorite part about Infinite, finally, or the last two bits about Infinite, I have to say, is that the set pieces are beautiful and massive. There are so many scenes where, you're just kind of falling from the sky and eventually you get caught, or whatever. And then also...
It's such a striking looking game.
Yeah.
In general.
And then,
the whole series is so striking.
Mm-hmm. And then the mobility that they give you for gameplay, they give you the sky hook, which basically allows you to go really fast along these rails that stretch across the city and everything, as well as just the overall gameplay is a lot faster and you're given a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Elizabeth is probably the greatest NPC companion ever given in a video game.
And just the way it introduced, it doesn't just throw you in like what Bioshock does, like the original Bioshock and Bioshock 2. I, to be honest, didn't like Bioshock at all. But the third one was, Infinite was, my favourite one, because it's you get put in the world, you're introduced to it, it slowly pushes you through, it's, you got time to take in the world, what's going on kind of thing. It's not just, go here, do this, I don't know what I'm doing. And, as you said, it's such a beautiful game, and the ending is quite weird as well. But yeah, it's awesome.
It's there are certain games that come out, maybe, I don't want to say every generation or so, but every few years that kind of reinforce the idea that video games are art. And I think Bioshock Infinite is a perfect example of that. It's one of those very, memorable, this is definitely an art. This is a piece of art type thing.
There is, I totally agree with that. There's always that one. The designers are I dare you to not admire what we're doing here. I dare you to not look at this and love it. Yeah. I'm trying to think of another example. Nothing comes to mind, but I totally agree with you that every 3 or so years, say, that there's always that game that drops that is just look at this world, look at these visuals, it's amazing, and just it just feels so different to me. I've not played the games, and I'm very loosely familiar with the story, but it's certainly one of the it stands out. For its story and its world. It just seems so different to me to what was available, or what I know of to be available at the time. Again, just like Metroid Prime is right up there on my wish list, but there's so many other games in the way, guys. I'll play it eventually, I'm sure.
It's kind of one of these series where you're either on the fence, you either love Infinite or you hate it, and you love the original games or you hate it.
Yeah, Infinite was also fairly divisive as well.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, maybe. But I just remember thinking that it was one of those, because there's always that one game in the series where it upsets a lot of people. Doom 3 is good to go back to that. There is always that one game. Trying to think of another example. There's a lot. I'm not played it, but a lot of people talk of Sonic 06. But then again, there was lots of games before that people didn't like. Sonic Unleashed, things like that, games that people find jarring and just not likable. So so there's so many games. Sometimes it's always that one game. But I always thought Infinite was that one game where people was what? I really don't like this. But I see what you mean. It's just it's the most.
Yeah.
I hate using the phrase, but it's the most Marmite of all the games. Where it's well, you said divisive, which is obviously a far smarter term to use. Where you either really 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 love it, or you think it's the worst of the bunch.
I mean, kind of. I suppose I'm not too sure if it's the same in other countries, but over here, I think the consensus is that people don't like it. Because if you talk to, like, if you were on any Facebook group or any group like that, you bring up Infinite. Oh no, the first two are much better than Infinite. Strayed from the path. If they do another one, I hope they go back and blah blah blah. I do get that, but yeah.
One big reason why I think Infinite is kind of scoffed at in foreign to American country is because Infinite revolves around American exceptionalism turned all the way up to the mats. That's what the entire city is based off of. Colombia, that is. Yeah. So it kind of resonates with people who are American culturally a little bit more than I'd imagine, say in Australia.
It based heavily on 60s Americana?
It's based heavily on early 20th century Americana.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like American Nazism a little bit.
In a way.
Yeah, as far as like if you do anything wrong, then you get killed, basically, kind of thing.
That was originally what it was, wasn't it? Originally,
the more appropriate term is like Puritanism.
Yeah,
Is American Puritanism.
Yeah.
I always find that with later games in a series, there's always going to be those hate it and always go. Some people probably point the finger at me as a retro gamer, being that very person. Actually, you think games are terrible. They lie. Where's the heart? Where's the but I can totally get that. But I think I imagine, and again, I've not played the game, but I imagine Infinite is probably just perfectly fine. It's just that most of the people who say it's not that good are just those purist people who just think like oh, it's not what it used to be. I was back in my day, kind of going into that sort of mode that almost everyone does, where they think back in my day it was a lot better.
Yeah.
Because like suddenly all these people are loving the thing that they love. It's like they have the sort of protective of it almost, so they have to hate it to sort of separate themselves from it. I don't know.
That's a big part of it as well. And then I also think a big part of it is a lot of people were married to Rapture, which is what the underwater city was in BioShock 1 and 2. True. And so to see it depart from that was a little bit
sad, as you could say. That's probably why they did the DLC going back down there.
Yeah.
To please those people, just them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I might as well just use that as my third as well.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
That'll do.
Anything?
I mean, as far as the only last thing that I want to say is the reason why I didn't like the original BioShocks. First up, I hate horror. Not that it is horror, but I don't like the whole creepy, dark, laughing, jumping out at you kind of stuff.
You just don't like the anxiety that they generate.
What's around the corner?
I totally get it.
And
video games are brilliant at that.
Yeah,
definitely. Creating that anxiety, that tension. Sorry, go on.
And I kind of think it's like the originals were kind of shallow a bit, I suppose you could say. Like they didn't give you a proper story about what was going on, or I kind of said this before. But, and like the original one, what was the main dude's name who you were trying to find? What was his name?
Atlas.
Atlas, yeah, that's him. Yeah, and then he turned evil, that's right. I did not get him at all. Like I didn't understand why he was there, or you had to kill him, or blah blah blah. He was like the creator of the place, I believe, of Rapture, but it didn't do enough good. But that's what BioShock did. It made up for it, and it introduced people a lot more to a nice environment and a good story.
Yeah, it's like the original BioShock is kind of just a chain of events that happen, as opposed to Infinite, where you are kind of given a clear objective type thing,
and you are the event kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also something to be said. It's like thematically, a lot of people like the theming and how the player character fit into the theming of BioShock 1 also. Because for those of you not aware, Rapture is very much based on Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people that just kind of prefer the theme to that and how your character fits into there in the first game as opposed to
Atlas Shrugged, isn't it based on that?
I mean, there's plenty of things. There's Atlas Shrugged. There's what's the other one? It's like the Stork or whatever that he once wrote about.
Not very familiar.
And what was
Okay.
Bioshock 2? Like that was nothing. Like it didn't have any story at all.
It was pretty campy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It was kind of pointless.
It was just like, I'll run around as one of these dudes and help people, and that's it.
Yeah, well, it's like it's futile anyway in the end, right?
Yeah.
In Bioshock 2, because of how much later in the Rapture City, it's like, oh, how are these people still living?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's my number 3, which is the same as Taylor's. So.
Oh, this will be interesting to see what your 2 and 1 is then.
Yeah.
So my
Promise
number
that
2.
probably won't happen again, but yeah, keep
Hopefully.
going.
Okay, we'll see. Well, my number 2 probably gives you a hint of what my number 1 is. My number 2 is Half-Life 2.
Oh god, are you really
because
double dipping? No.
I'm not double dipping. I was
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm double dipping into one of the probably the best first-person shooter ever created.
Excuse me, sir?
Lies.
Best first-person shooter series ever created. I meant to say.
Lies.
Say your piece. Say your piece.
Yeah.
I will defend Half-Life to the death. Anyway, so Half-Life 2, it's weird. I might as well put my 1 and 2 together, yeah. Because the reason why I love Half-Life 2 is because it's basically a continuation of Half-Life 1. But it does it so well. I refer to it as a sequel done right all the time, because it didn't change too much. All it did was I mean, there were some things that changed, of course it did, but it didn't. The control, the weapons and controls were a little bit tighter. The story was obviously expanded a lot more because first Half-Life is obviously an origin story in a way, so it's very basic. And because of the focus on immersion, there wasn't much lore thrown at you. It was all discoverable in a way. It was all interactions with scientists from where you would get the story. But in Half-Life 2, of course, the story's already been established and they expanded upon it. So then there's this whole story involving the anyway, I almost said something else. Is this story involving the Combine and basically their attempt to basically enslave humanity, and one person who's kind of basically helping them, Dr. Breen, and it continues the original Half-Life in a way that I didn't expect, because I remember I dove into Half-Life 2 kind of wanting to dislike it. It sounds really silly, but because I have so much love for the original Half-Life, Half-Life 2, I was wary, kind of like, no, don't do this to me. You know, nothing can top this, and I'm already, you know, yeah. And I tried not to like it, but again, it just going back to what I said earlier, I felt like I was dared not to like it, but I loved it. You know, the introduction of like vehicles and stuff like that. I thought the enemies were. Changed too many of the enemies. They kept it the way it was, and it basically is a beefed up version of Half-Life 1. Story, visuals, controls were a little bit better, and it's just Half-Life, guys. All right? That's why it's good. I mean, because it's Half-Life. But the original Half-Life had all these different areas that were just super fun to explore and felt different, even though it was all part of the same sort of contiguous sort of collection of areas, because it basically was one facility. Half-Life 2 again expanded upon that and basically made you explore a whole a couple of a whole city, a whole county even. And again, it felt linear and it made sense. And you felt like you were wandering, but you weren't. It was linear as hell, but you felt like you were exploring. It almost felt open world, but it wasn't, because it was such a well-designed game. The way they introduce you to all the weapons, one of my favorite sequences is when you get the crossbow sniper rifle, I guess you'd call it, sniper crossbow. I think they just call it the crossbow in the game. But when you get that classic sort of first-person shooter moment where you got to take out enemies on a bridge, just this kind of like getting from A to B to C, and how it feels like such an adventure. I just love it. And I've not played the 360 and PS3 version. I've only got the original Xbox version. So even then, visually, it looks really, really good. So yeah, I love Half-Life 2 just because it's a continuation of Half-Life 1, quite literally. That's my number 2.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Go on, Taylor, have at it.
Oh. Man, you make it sound like such a good game. Okay.
But I'm wrong. Is that what you're gonna say?
Well,
you're
I'm
putting,
not gonna-
am I
it's
putting,
like it's
am I
your-
putting lipstick on a pig? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it's just like, okay, that's your opinion, man. Like, I'm not gonna discredit your opinion or anything.
I'll put that on the
But I
video. I'm
just
gonna put that
say-
meme right there.
But that's just like your opinion. Yeah, exactly. But let me just say that I don't understand any of the hype to Half-Life. Honestly, I think it is a glorified physics demo because that's honestly part of how it got created. We're getting horrible mic bleed through, by the way. But yeah, anyway, that's partially how it was created, was to show off the physics of the source engine. And so many of the level designs pander to just showing off the physics of the source engine. Like, I pretty much wanted to turn off Half-Life 2 once the guard made me put the can in the trash can. It was like, oh, look what we can do. We have individualized object programming. It's not really relevant for an FPS game, but look what we can do. We're Valve.
No, dude, that's just basically a quick. By the way, saying, by the way, these guys are douchebags. They're just like pushing humanity around. So you got to sort these guys out. It's basically saying
By putting a can in a bin.
that's what you got to do. This is what the world is like. This is what has happened. You have these security monsters. You know, they're not even human. They're intended to look like humans. But that's just how it is. It's you're oppressed. Is basically what that whole moment is saying. It's saying, pick that can up, but you knocked it on the floor. But you're telling me to pick it up because you can. You know, it's basically saying.
I mean, am I, or could have been just like a dude? It's like, hey, would you mind picking that up for me? My back's not so great, and I might slip a disc. It's like, oh yeah, man, here you go.
Yeah. True. You could have done that, but that wasn't actually the case, was it? You just basically saying pick it up, because
I mean, you could have been a little bit nicer asking about it, sure, but maybe it was having a bad day.
Oh dear.
And it's like I starkly contrast you when you say it has good level design, because I remember the rooftop sequence near the beginning of Half-Life 2 just being absolutely clueless as to where to go next. I didn't feel like I was naturally guided through the world or anything.
I wouldn't say it was hand holding is never good in a game.
Well, no, I'm not advocating for full hand holding, but there's a difference between hand holding, which is having someone literally lead you, having the world guide you naturally, which is fine and is different from hand holding, versus maybe you should go here, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know, man. And it's like kind of eventually of digging around for like an hour in this one area, I eventually found the way out.
Oh, in the rooftop sequence.
Maybe okay, yeah, that's part of it, but then I'm thinking other sequences also.
Okay, so I found the rooftop sequence quite well designed, because I thought, if I remember correctly, I thought the roof, the paths where you were meant to go, weren't illuminated, but they were lighter in a way. They were like, for example, there's an area where you are going around a ledge, and that is very visual. It's very right there. It contrasts nicely to the whole.
The ledge is fine. Yeah, the ledge is fine.
let's talk about the ledge of Half-Life 2. It's such an odd thing to focus on. But no, I wouldn't say that. I can't recall. There were many sequences in Half-Life 2, or any game really, but I would argue that isn't that good level design, in that they don't want to particularly tell you where to go, because after all, you're being chased. They want to create that panic. So if they signposted along the way, even subtly, I wouldn't say that's a good thing. Although then again, it is kind of just forward for the most part, isn't it? It's more finding the way around. You're not kind of going left, right, up, down, or anything. You're not going all over the place. Obviously, you ascend stairs and go through rooms and stuff like that. But I think I wouldn't say that was a bad level design. I would say that was purposeful.
Let me give it credit to this.
Okay.
I think for the pace that Half-Life tries to establish and everything as an FPS, it's too quick for how its levels are designed. If they were to make Half-Life more of an RPG, then that might be a little bit better.
I would actually love that. I would love. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, maybe the world. Well, it is. It is big enough, but it isn't. They would have to really expand upon what they've already created to make an RPG. But I would love to see that. That would be so cool. Do you know there's a Doom RPG as well? But anyway, that's beside the point. I would love to see the Half-Life world as an RPG. Although it's, I don't know. It's having a. I mean, I'm thinking of Earthbound here. It would kind of make sense, but I feel like it would lack that immersion that Half-Life is famous for, and does so well, better than any other game actually. I'm just trying to troll you back now, but no, yeah. Half-Life 2 is my number 2, and fight me.
All right.
Fair enough.
All right.
But Taylor, what's your number 2 then?
Also a Valve game, Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
Oh no. I know.
What?
I know.
What?
Not CS:GO.
I didn't take yours again, did I?
No, you didn't take mine, but I hate this game.
That would be incredible.
Okay.
Ooh,
Yeah,
this is
Counter-Strike
yeah.
is
why'd you love
probably it's like, in terms of gameplay, it is the pinnacle of FPSs, to be quite honest. Especially super duper competitive FPSs. You know, it's like, all right, it's hard because the game revolves around multiplayer experience and everything.
Yeah.
A lot of the joy from the game comes from, yourself getting better and being able to see that by taking down stronger and stronger real life opponents and everything. So that's a big, like, kind of cathartic joy of playing the game, as well as it's for $15. I mean, it's undeniable value. You get a ton of game for $15. You get, probably the most popular and skill-based FPS on the market right now. That's for multiplayer, as well as you get access to a bunch of community servers and whatnot. And yeah, there's just a ton. Even if you're not super duper competitive, there's just a ton of fun that can be had with all the workshop stuff.
You can join an Australian server and get sworn out like never before.
Yeah, exactly.
For not moving.
Yeah.
Can you? I mean, I'm referring to the FPS list a little bit here. Could you really compare a multiplayer shooter to a campaign-driven shooter? Can you really put them in the same list? Because I don't know if you can. Because I think when I think FPS, I think obviously first-person perspective. I think weapons. I think story, and I think sound and visuals. And when I think of multiplayer, the only thing with one thing is, of course, is missing. Granted, it probably is there in the world, but that's if you have experience in the series altogether, or even if you've read some lore, perhaps. But a game where you're basically a bunch of I don't want to talk this down too much, but you're basically a bunch of online people. That sounds so.
No, I definitely see what you're saying.
You're a bunch of players. I meant to say online people. A bunch of players who are online, thrown into a
town, if you will.
A town or a battle zone, and a battle royale thing breaks out. I kind of feel that's a completely different video game to any other a more campaign-driven first-person shooter like Half-Life 2. I don't think.
It's all about content delivery, though, isn't it? Like, all right, so a shooter like Half-Life, it chooses to deliver its content through a single-player story, as opposed to CS:GO, it delivers its content through multiplayer.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with David on this, as far as I kind of agree with both, as a matter of fact. I mean, a game like Crysis compared to a game like CS:GO, I see no resemblance at all, apart from they both use guns and that's it. Sure, they both have first-person elements, but I kind of see CS:GO as or any like a game like Overwatch or something like that, as
I get you.
I don't see it as it doesn't give you, but they're both completely different games, as far as one doesn't have story and one doesn't have multiplayer. But
I would say the one focuses on story where the other one doesn't. I would that.
Yeah. And I mean, sure, they both have FPS elements, but they're not the same product, I suppose you could say.
No, and I mean that kind of lends credit too. It's how many different nuances there are to RPG. Without even splitting it regionally between JRPG and Western RPG.
Yeah,
and it's FPS kind of has a lot of room to play in also.
Therefore, we should create a online FPS list. I don't know.
We should have.
I mean, Black Ops 4, for example,
Yeah.
completely did away with the campaign.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Now I know that I'm guessing here, and I don't want to talk down to the Black Ops community here, but I'm guessing that the Black Ops community just want to shoot each other a lot. And
It's
swear at
more
each other,
of. It's more
beat
of.
each other.
It's more of like people don't play Call of Duty for the campaign anymore. Those
I
days are
so
long
would.
gone.
I know that the whole World War thing. I mean, they tried to go back to it, didn't they? They did World War II, and even the title suggests like we're just doing this because, we're trying
Right.
to. People have complained about how like futuristic and weird our story is getting. We went from like gritty, almost profound stories about war and stuff like that, and then we go into these guys who are like a ragtag group of special ops, and now we're going into the future where we can jump and fly and bound off walls or whatever. And then they thought, guys, let's just reel this back in, and then they went like slapped on the table with World War II. Not playing
Right.
myself, it could be a great game for all I know. World War II has been done so much. Medal of Honor Frontline was one of my considerations for this top 5. Probably would come in at probably my number 7 or 8 now that I think about it more. Anyway, I to go back to the whole story thing. The first-person shooters are story games. I think. I mean, I think obviously we've got Doom. I always
Why can't they be both though? That's the thing. It's like why can't they be both?
True. So why not have both? Or the way I see it, either campaign or online together, or just campaign.
So there's absolutely no room for multiplayer only.
I wouldn't say there's no room for it, but I wouldn't compare just solely multiplayer games to other more story-driven games. I think the more story-driven games are generally greater games. I just think from an artistic point of view. I mean, of course, there's story involved with one of them, and the other one is just purely visual. But okay, there might be elements of story and little nods to things here and there. But that's only if you're up on some lore, I guess. But I think.
I mean, is there not art in like crafting level designs for endless multiplayer?
Totally.
Is there not a degree of artistry in crafting game mechanics?
No, I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. There is definitely any.
Yeah, like any game created offers art, but I think it's like what David's saying. Like they're not the same product. I don't think they should be compared. Like multiplayer FPSs should have their own unique standing, and I don't believe should be compared to a campaign-only game, in my opinion.
Okay.
As this is my guess, this has probably been a discussion that has come up during the top 25 list.
I would say this would have been a much better discussion to have, as opposed to when we're just talking about our favorite FPSs. This would have been a much better discussion to have when talking about the top 25 list.
Yep.
Yeah. But I just think. For me, I look at multiplayer as a kind of like an additional cherry on the cake, icing on the cake. In the same way that going back to Time Splitters earlier, and I'm surprised I don't think I brought it up actually. Oh, I did. The way the Time Splitters has the level editor. I also think it did have multiplayer online as well. The third one did anyway. I'm not sure. But either way, it had all these other things. But I think the paramount thing that makes up, I would argue, any game actually. Debating with myself here.
It is a hard one, though. It is definitely a hard one.
I'm just thinking. I just think you can't overlook story. I just think when something has a story, I just think if something is just mechanics alone. I'm not saying multiplayer games, first-person shooters are just mechanics and nothing more. Obviously, there's way more to it. There's definitely artistry there, but I just think the real meat of a game is the story. Yeah. You can have great mechanics.
Well, yeah, it's like don't get me wrong. Also, it's like I much prefer story-driven video games in general type thing. But it's just like, if I want to play games with friends, of course I'm going to seek one of the better multiplayer experiences possible. And that's why CSGO is so high for me, is because so many of my gaming memories with friends were made playing CSGO.
Yeah.
I can totally get that. I can totally get from a nostalgia point that why something like GoldenEye would definitely be high up on people's list. Because the amount of memories got of like them and 3 of their friends gathered around a tiny horrible CRT TV, trying to kill each other on 4-player split screen. I totally get that. And honestly, if I wanted to play a game with friends and there was multiplayer options, I would probably go for a first-person shooter as well, because it's again just referencing Doom again. It's a pick-up and playable concept. It's not in. It can be, but it's not in any way complex. It doesn't have to be. You can just dive right in. And for a game like that, where the basic goal is just to shoot other things, face the right direction and shoot, pretty straightforward. I would choose an FPS and probably one like Counter-Strike as well. But I just can't compare it to a story-driven game, a campaign.
That's funny, because my second one that I'm going to be talking about is like a multiplayer experience. Not necessarily a game, but it's more of an experience, funnily enough.
Okay. What is it?
Well, it's not necessarily one game, it's more the old Call of Duties. And this is more of a memory than anything else. It's like World of War, and I think it was...
Finest Hour?
Pardon?
Finest Hour?
Yeah, no, that was...
Big Red One?
Yeah, I think it was that. Anyway,
Big Red One, if I remember correctly, was just the Xbox version of Call of Duty 2.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything, it didn't stand out for any other reason other than it's just got a subtitle for some reason.
Yeah. Predominantly, this whole thing was like more relating to World of War. Basically, it's more of a memory, as I said. So basically, my brother and I would jump on and do like split screen multiplayer in World of War, and the whole time I would just lose and lose and lose and lose because I was younger than him, no doubt. But my best memory was when I was like, we'd been playing this one World of War for like 3 years solid, just like multiplayer on that. And then I finally managed to beat him after like 400 attempts and thousands of hours and all this stuff. And like, I must say that the World of War story as well was pretty decent as well. Like, I did play through the game outside of the multiplayer, but for this certain game, multiplayer was what made it for me.
I can totally get that.
Just because of the memories involved and like experiences, and that was one of the earliest memories that I can remember actually playing a multiplayer game. Like, that was the first multiplayer experience that I had. So you could say.
I can totally get that, because I have memories of going up against my cousin in Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
And he would destroy me every single time. Didn't give me any pointers or anything like that. He just enjoyed beating up on the noob. And eventually I got better, and I managed to sort of like really white knuckle the victory. Like, seriously, it got so intense. I mean, I wasn't a bad loser or anything, but I was just like, God, inside I was just like, oh, darn. I could beat this. I can beat him. I know I can. And I have memories of like doing like just like going up against my cousin and eventually beating him and being like bouncing around the room. So I can totally get that kind of nostalgia being a factor.
And also like Modern Warfare 2 as well. I was also going to talk about Modern Warfare 2, but that also had like a massive multiplayer element to it as well, as far as like my experience with the game.
Isn't that where the multiplayer came in? No, wait.
No,
I'm wrong.
No.
Call of Duty 3.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was just a small tidbit, I suppose you could say, for a 2.
It's slightly random, but it always bothers me that it goes Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2. It just bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just stick to... You mentioned 3, and I forgot, oh yeah, there was 3. Oh, and then I suddenly realised, oh wait, yeah, it does that, doesn't it? But anyway, I'm surprised it wasn't like Call of Duty 5, Black Ops. Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Who's next? Was it Taylor? Did you?
Yeah, Taylor went CS:GO.
I did number 2 CS:GO, but
so now we're on number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're on my number 1 now, yeah?
Yeah. And I'm sure we know what this is.
Yep, we know what this is.
If you don't know what this is, it's a little game. Funny enough, another Valve game actually. Which is a nice little coincidence, and it stars this other guy who's actually from one of the other games that I mentioned, a guy called Gordon Freeman, and
double dipped.
I didn't realize that was a rule. Maybe that's.
Well, no, I didn't say it was a rule or anything. It's just like, damn. Okay.
It's just like they're both right up there, and this thing happens where this Gordon Freeman, he's like a scientist. He's doing his thing. Arrives at work a bit late. City guy, and he arrives at work and just almost his first interaction. It doesn't appear to be his first job. He appears to know these people. He must have worked with them at different areas. I don't know, but this is the first thing he does in the entire place. He must feel so responsible, Gordon Freeman. No wonder he becomes like this hero, because he feels like he has to fix it all, because it all began pretty much with him. He goes into this experimental place and pushes a what they call an anomalous material into this machine called an anti-mass spectrometer, and opens a portal to another world. And all these aliens come in and start wrecking stuff.
As you do.
And of course, then because all these aliens are coming to this world, and all this experimentation was actually done under the table a little bit, this whole squad of guys called the HECU, the Hazardous Environment Combat Unit, come along, and they're there to rescue people, right? No, they're there to clean the place. They're there to make sure that nobody witnesses. There are no witnesses, rather, of what happened, and everyone has to die. And of course, Gordon, being someone who doesn't want to die, has to defend himself. And that's what the story is. And the game I'm referring to, of course, is Half-Life. And I'm going to go back to... I'm going to reference what Anthony... The nostalgia is a slight factor here. But I don't think it's too important. But a little part of me... I have a little nostalgia for the reason why I love it so much. And that is because back when I first had Half-Life, my family wasn't exactly wealthy. Yeah. And I had this horrible little job in a computer shop, and the owner really didn't like me. I don't think he was like hardcore English, and I was well, I am Welsh. Sorry, not was Welsh. I didn't change. And I was like, I'm not a patriotic Welsh person. I wouldn't. I mean, people say I don't even sound that Welsh, and I guess I don't. But for some, I just think he didn't like me. I think he was just so patriotic, and in the UK, there's a lot of there's a lot of separation, a lot of hatred. It pretty much expands around rugby, and that's pretty much the reason why we hate each other. I think it's probably a bit more historical.
And like the Irish War, wasn't it, or something? Or Scottish War,
yeah, I'm being silly. It goes back a bit further than that. But this guy didn't like me. I think because I was Welsh. Also, I was younger than him. He had to work really hard to get this really crappy little shop, and I could probably go to college and study computers and have like a much better, bigger company. It probably took him like 30 years to get that shop. I don't know. He just didn't like me. Why I was there, why he let me stay there to be a trainee. I was a trainee. I don't know. But anyway, I got myself a computer from him. And it was an absolute garbage machine, a Pentium 133 megahertz processor, if I recall. Something like 256 meg of RAM, if I recall. It was garbage. Even in its day, it was absolute garbage. We're talking dial-up internet era computing here. Windows 98, if I recall, on the cusp of Windows XP, I believe. No, actually, No, it was Windows 98. It doesn't matter. But anyway, garbage machine. And it was the only machine that I had that was decent. I had an Amstrad CPC as well, but technologically speaking, it wasn't nowhere near it. So I would go to electronic stores. There was a shop that's kind of circling the drain here in the UK. I don't know if it's in America or in Australia or any other part of the world, called WH Smith's. I think it started as a mom and pop kind of operation.
Guys. I think it's very much a British company. Started just like a lot of companies do. It's like a little tiny thing, little corner shop, corner shop that sells like cigarettes and newspapers and stuff like that. And it became like a big industry. And it's kind of circling the drain now because magazines and pens and paper notebooks and things were his business. Nobody's really buying those anymore because obviously it was moving into the digital age. So it's circling the drain, and that's where I would go to buy my games. And I can remember standing in the W. Smiths of my hometown, staring at all these PC games. And some of them were just, and of course I had to make serious considerations here because I wasn't exactly loaded. I was on having this trainee job, and I was earning about £45 a week. That's how it kind of starts with a lot of people. When they leave school, they get given these trainee jobs, and you earn like pittance. But of course, to me back then, it was still a lot of money. But at the same time, games were still really expensive.
So I would stare at these games, and I would look at the specs constantly. And I remember Half-Life, and this would have been the bestseller edition. And I was just staring at it, and the spec was almost exactly that what my computer was, if I recall. Or at least the RAM was a little bit higher. So this was a bit more of a gamble. And lo and behold, I did gamble. There's a couple of other games, I can't remember what they were, and I thought, I'm going to go for Half-Life, first-person shooter, cool, Doom is great, because Doom would have been probably my favorite game at the time. I got that, and of course then it was that apprehension of walking home, thinking, is this going to work? Oh my god, I just wasted my money. Because I don't think I would have been able to trade it back in. Once you bought it, unless it's defective, you're not having your money back. Yeah. So I took it home, put it on my computer, and it ran a little jarringly. It ran a little jarringly, rather.
Yeah.
When I lowered the settings a little bit, finally I got it to run nice and smooth. So for a while, it really was the only game that I could play, on my PC at least. And so what I found myself doing was just playing it constantly. And I realized later on in life, the reason why I was playing it so constantly is because it was so highly immersive. It was nothing like anything I had played before. I didn't appreciate it at the time. I couldn't possibly appreciate it because I was a stupid kid. And I just realized this game grabbed me quite literally. And I didn't even know it did, because the games that I would play would be just, basic stuff, really, relatively speaking. And this game I dove into, and of course now I know that was always the intention of Gabe Newell and Valve, the Valve guys, was to make a game that was completely and 100% totally immersive, cinematic. They originally wanted to make a horror game. They wanted to really grab people, and that's what it did to me. So it not only was it really the only game I could probably play without any hassle. The primary reason I was constantly playing is because I became really addicted to it, and I played it constantly, and I repeat played it through all the time. And then of course later on I would get better technology. I would get like a PS2. A friend of mine would give me his PS1 and things like that. But I still found myself going back to Half-Life because no game felt like it at the time. No game grabbed me so much. So yeah, so not to waffle on too much, and not to wax so much love for this game. I don't want to. Seriously, I could talk all day about the original Half-Life. It's a bit of nostalgia, but it's a bit of brilliant game design as well. And because it had not been really done before, so it's a really historically important game. I would definitely say. So yeah, my number one is Half-Life 1.
Cool.
Best game ever. Best first-person shooter.
I disagree.
Well, I can't argue with that.
No worries.
I can't argue with that now.
Go for it. I'm sure you'll try. I'm sure you'll give it a shot.
Garbage taste? I don't know. Like, no. It's like, okay. To be fair, it's like I would never deny the technical achievements that Half-Life 1 or 2 is or everything. It's like I just think a lot of the merits that some people bring up about it aren't valid. That's my primary opposition to it. I mean, it's like you have such a deep connection to this game and everything. I'm not going to take that away from you or attempt to. Everyone, everyone likes what they like. It's like Half-Life. It's like Half-Life just simply didn't grab me, but it certainly grabbed you. I totally agree with you in that. For me, I think my Half-Life experience was kind of in a vacuum, where because of my technological limitations, my attention was drawn to it.
Yeah.
Because I was like a kid, and I was like, I want a game, I want to play games. And what I have is this kind of, compared to this PC, this relatively crappy Amstrad CPC, and the only other game that I can get to play on my computer is actually Doom, and I've played that only so much. I can only play it so much. I want more, and then of course, this game comes along, and it's very much like Doom in a way. Its story is very similar as well when you think about it. Experimentation gone wrong, or teleportation technology.
Yeah.
Not really teleportation technology, but a teleporting event happens. So yeah, for me, my vision was very much funneled towards Half-Life, and I think because it was the only game I could play, it meant that for me it matured, it kind of marinated, because I just constantly played it, and the more I played it, the more I started to love it. The more I became fascinated with the world, and the more I became really, really good at it as well. And I started to notice things like how I felt like the game is a linear experience, and just like I mentioned about Half-Life 2, but it gives you the impression that it's not. It does a really, really good job of that, of making you feel like you are on this in this entire facility, which you can actually wander around, but you have to explore it all to begin with. So it's the entire game is basically one long level, apart from maybe arguably one section where it kind of splits up a little bit. Well, it splits a little bit, and that's just because it's what some people would argue is its only cutscene. When Gordon gets spoiler alert, I guess, when Gordon gets ambushed about halfway through, and can theoretically go straight back to the beginning if you were right at the end, but actually they make it so it's impossible, because there's some areas where you fall down a shaft, or you climb up something and breaks or whatever, or platform you can no longer traverse or that you would traverse is no longer there, or something along those lines. So yeah, I can totally get people's argument that it's part of most of it's nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a nice meld of the two. That for me was the first genuinely film-like video game experience. It felt massive to me back then.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about my games up to this point. We're talking about post Mega Drive era stuff here, early PlayStation 1 even, and all the games that I couldn't afford a Mega Drive or anything like that. So I was always like a couple of generations behind. So I went from an Amstrad CPC to its still visually impressive for its time. Actually, a very, 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 very good-looking computer, and a very powerful one that did quite well. But it was primarily here in Europe. To this immense, to then like dabbling with Doom, and then boom, straight into Half-Life. So I don't know, but it's a good combination of brilliant game design and nostalgia. So
I mean, for me, it just didn't capture my imagination, I suppose you could say. Like
I can totally get that.
I played like 3 or 4 hours of it and just put it down and haven't picked it up again.
Which one are we talking now? We're talking about the OG Half-Life, yeah?
Yeah, Half-Life 1.
Yeah, I can totally get that, because I think for me it was a fairly new game. It was only 2 years old, I think, probably at the time.
At the time it would have been amazing, probably.
Actually, it would have been about a year old. So to jump into it now, I think I was talking about this with Joel on one of our previous episodes. And I can't remember what we were talking. Oh, actually, it was the episode we did about Half-Life, actually. But I mentioned to Joel that I think he hadn't played the original Half-Life, and he was playing Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
And I said to him, right, what you'll find now is that when you jump back to Half-Life, or if you play the original Half-Life, you won't like it as much as Half-Life 2. You'll like Half-Life 2 more, because it's visually a better looking game, of course it is. And I would even argue that it plays a little bit better as well. Excuse me. But because he's already had a taste of that, Half-Life 1 is going to feel like a downgrade. But of course, for me, and if you've only played Half-Life recently, it's going to feel like nothing compared to Bioshock, compared to Call of Duty, compared to in Republic Commando. You had basically, it's a bit of a cliche, but you had to be there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I guess maybe it's like I'm not so disillusioned with the Half-Life series, because maybe I didn't willingly want to play it at the time, so to speak. It was more, I'm not saying like someone strapped me down to a chair, it's like play this and enjoy it type thing.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like in the PC gaming community at the time when I went to play Half-Life and everything, there was such an expectation of, oh, this has to be like the greatest game ever made type thing. So I guess maybe it was just a little bit overhyped for me, and it's like I felt like there's this expectation I need to have fun with it. And it was just like, oh, I'm not having.
Yeah, and of course, to go back to my first experience with it, I didn't know anything. This was a game that I only had a couple of screenshots of from the back of the case, and the fact that it was I can't remember if it was Game of the Year edition or Bestseller edition. I feel like I read something on the internet about it. I can't recall, but my experience with it was completely. And it was nothing. I didn't know anything about it, pretty much. So I came to it fresh. There was no hype for me. So,
Yeah.
and of course, then on top of that, then my vision was funneled towards it because I had no other games to play, pretty much. So, or the games I wanted to play, really. So you can see how it would become my favorite game because it's it's that history, and I also believe it's a great game. So, yeah, if I would even argue that now if someone gave it to me now and said like play this, you've played Half-Life 2, you've played you played Modern Warfare 2, you played Black Ops and all this stuff. Have a go with this. I might be on your side. I might agree with you. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
All right.
Okay, go for it. So, Taylor, I'm curious about your number one.
Don't pick another one of mine.
Oh, that is I'm with this. Go on. It'd be so funny if your number ones were the same.
Yeah.
For a number of factors, both pertaining to nostalgia and just kind of the overall package that this game was and everything surrounding it, both at the time and presently, my number one is Call of Duty 6 Modern Warfare 2.
Okay. You are safe.
6.
Okay, we're good this time? Okay.
You're good.
Anyway.
Some people
right.
say that's the game that that was the pinnacle of the series before the series kind of jumped the shark a little bit.
Yeah, and I perfectly agree with that. I don't think there's been a Call of Duty game or really just other or any other FPS game given to really match what Modern Warfare 2 achieved.
I would agree with that, definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, it's such the full experience also. So it's like, first to start off, you have this awesome campaign.
Quite deep as well, isn't it? It's quite deep. It's quite really emotional, kind of not hardcore, kind of dramatic story. It's not just like a gung ho like the latest Steam games would become, where everything's super macho and over.
Yeah, it's this very dramatic, epic story that's like a solid 8 to 10 hour experience that has these amazing set pieces, these amazing scenarios and everything that really, it's like they just make you feel cool, And it's just like, oh wow, this is so unique. Oh, this is straight up out of a Tom Clancy book. This is awesome, And it's like you have these really well likable characters for it being a Call of Duty game. It's just like, oh wow, this is absolutely insane. It's like you don't even need to add the qualifier. Oh, Modern Warfare 2's campaign is good for a Call of Duty game. It's just a good campaign, and it is a blast all the way through, and it's just like nothing. And then from that, you can go into either multiplayer or Spec Ops. So let's talk about Spec Ops a little bit. It's kind of the third mode. It's co-op. It's a bunch of these little different challenge scenarios and kind of familiar environments from what you were given to in the campaign and everything, and it's like, oh, do XYZ in XY amount of time, and not super competitive. It's like, because to go with your friends, I got this store on this level, I bet you can't do better or whatever, and then you have a little bit of friendly competition with that, or you could team up with your friends also and complete these missions, of course. And then the multiplayer. Oh man, the multiplayer. The guns were also more or less well balanced. There was such a large variety in what you could do, both with kill streaks, weapons, and everything. And all the maps were really well designed. They were different enough from each other that you could play each one a little bit differently, or in the sense rather that you really couldn't play each one the same way, get the same result. And yeah, it's just like it's the entire package. And then the hype surrounding this game. There was an immense amount of hype surrounding the release of Modern Warfare 2, and I was such like a giddy little kid about it. It's like I was so excited for this game from the get-go. It got announced, and it's like I would follow everything about it that I could find and everything. I couldn't wait to play this game. And to me, no other game has quite lived up to the hype it created to itself as Modern Warfare 2 did.
Cool.
So that's my piece about it. And then, the last thought, it's like, of course, the countless upon countless hours spent playing Xbox Live with friends on this game.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I was going to kind of talk about this a little bit as well, but it's kind of the whole package. Like, it gives you multiplayer, it gives you a great story, gives you like captivating characters, particularly General Shepard, or what's his name? General Shepard? Yeah. Okay. I was thinking Mass Effect for some reason. And like it's still going strong today. Like they did a reboot of it, of 1 and 2.
No, that was COD 4. They only did it for COD 4.
Oh, COD 4. I thought they were doing it for 2 as well.
Nope, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, okay. That's weird. Yeah, I mean, it's like the amount of hours I spent on this game as well was pretty insane. Like, once again, my brother got me into it, and then, like, I just jumped into it and started playing it as well. Although the whole no rush, that was the first game, wasn't it?
No Russian was Modern Warfare 2.
Modern Warfare 2. Okay.
Ah, yes. Well, wasn't the first controversy,
yeah.
though, was it?
Yeah, that was. I don't want to say it was gaming's first real big controversy, but that was certainly.
Wasn't there one in Modern Warfare 1 where you had to basically ransack a village? And people said it was. What am I thinking?
No, that's Black Ops.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, there was one. Yeah, there was one where you basically. I'm sure, because I'm picking a picture. I'm picturing the more traditional American Army clothing and a desert village where you basically obliterate it. You destroy it, if I recall. But it kind of becomes a shooting range where you're killing everyone. But of course, you are a white American. And,
I don't think that's in Call of Duty.
No.
What am I thinking of?
There is one in Black Ops where it's like I think it's like an Asian, in Afghan.
You kind of screw over a
Afghanistan.
Vietnamese village.
Yeah.
Just in Black Ops.
Maybe I'm thinking of
but-
that. I'm sure there was something, maybe in Modern Warfare 2 as well, but I'm sure there was something in Modern Warfare 1. Call of Duty 4 type.
No. No.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, I might be wrong. I might be thinking of it because of the. I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm sure. But yeah, no Russian was interesting. But what I liked about it, when I first heard about this, and I hadn't played the game, when I first heard a bit about no Russian, my first reaction was like, oh, don't take this out the wrong way, but oh, cool, because
Cool.
the reason why I liked it was because it's not people were putting it up as this kind of like gratuitous violence, shoot innocent people. No. It was a scenario. It was a moral choice, because my understanding is this: there was two things that could really happen here. You could, because you're undercover, aren't you? You're basically a double agent, effectively, with this Russian group of terrorists, and you are engaging in a terrorist act, and that's obviously the reason why people didn't like it. But what it did was it put people in a scenario. Okay, right. You're essentially on a mission to save a lot more people than are standing in front of you right now in this airport. So what do? You willingly mow down all these innocent people, appeasing your boss in this gang, and thereby gaining their trust in order to later on save a lot more people potentially from way more terrorist acts, or do you not shoot all these people and then get the suspicion on you drawn by the rest of your terrorist gang? Do you want to gain their trust by doing something terrible, or do you want to not do something terrible
and keep
potentially
clear
wreck the whole mission? And wreck the whole mission, and then potentially not gain information you need to stop further terrorist acts. It's a dilemma choice. It's a moral choice, and I think it was brilliant.
Yeah, so it's like that's the first, or believe it or not, that's actually the first real. And I'm not talking about that. Okay, spoiler for a 7-year-old, it's a almost 10-year-old game now. Good lord. Spoiler for an almost 10-year-old game now. It's like at the end. It's like this. I'm not referring to that twist at the end of the level where you end up dying no matter what, because Makarov is onto you. But the implied twist there is that the only reason why you're put in that scenario is that because Makarov knows that you're a double agent.
Yeah, yep.
Sort of testing you.
Yeah.
Putting you into an awkward position.
No, it's because he's going to kill you at the end anyway. So it's
so it's just like play along until I kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't it kind of like if Makarov knows that you're a double agent, this will be fun.
Because he's kind of
used. I'm going to make him. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, I'm going to make him basically try and innocent. Because obviously this Makarov guy is obviously a bit of a twisted guy, and he doesn't like mind playing with human lives. So he thought, I'm going to make this guy that I know is a double agent, put him in a moral situation, moral quandary, or where I force him to either mow down a bunch of innocent people or look suspicious. I think that's actually really, really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's my piece about Modern Warfare 2.
Cool.
Or Mewtwo, as I call them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mewtwo. That's awesome.
Me too.
Okay, then Anthony, I'm really interested in what your number one is now.
So mine is kind of a like Afghanistan kind of shooter, and it is Bad Company.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, Battlefield Bad Company. It's kind of tied because Bad Company 2 improved on what Bad Company had. I really enjoyed the whole Bad Company kind of games. I suppose I can't really call it a series, but really enjoyed both of them, just mainly because of the whole comedy aspect and the character interactions and the whole fact that, you know, all three, because the captain isn't really, that all like three of you are like have committed war crimes, I suppose you could say, or like done something dodgy, and then you put into this kind of squad, and you're like a suicide squad, I suppose, and you're sent up against like this whole region, just you on your own with your squad, and you're just doing your own thing. Also, it was kind of the first introduction of kind of destroyable terrain in a Battlefield game as well. Like you could destroy buildings and get grenade launchers and all that kind of stuff. The story was awesome. Didn't really delve into the whole multiplayer aspect of it much, because just kept on replaying the story after story after story. And I really wanted Bad Company 3, but probably won't be happening, unfortunately. And yeah, like the memories I have of that game was... And this is a game, mind you, that I actually played myself. It wasn't influenced by other people, so it's a first. But yeah, like, I don't reckon you could get a better FPS, to be honest. That is one of my favourite FPSs out there.
Isn't that interesting that the game you chose was a game, the game that you chose to be number one was a game that you found yourself, in a way that because Half-Life was for me as well, because like Half-Life 2 obviously is because I played Half-Life 1. Let's look at it. Half-Life 3, Time Splitters 3 was a game because I played Time Splitters 2, but then again, I'm just trying to think if I was influenced in any way, but I don't think I was actually. That's probably why my number 5 are my number 5, because they're all games that I chose myself. I had virtually no influence whatsoever.
Yeah,
and that's probably why they surprised me, and why, and probably why Taylor doesn't like it all that much, because it was overhyped for you there, Taylor. So that's fascinating. I find that quite interesting. That when you discover a game for yourself, it appears a lot better.
Yeah, true.
When you know nothing about it, or at least you haven't been told, like, oh, you got to play this game. This game's amazing. It will change your life. I had none of that for any of my top 5, which I find really interesting.
Although I must say, like, Halo is one of my all-time favourite series out there. That was introduced to me by someone else, so that wasn't kind of a thing that I discovered on my own. But
Halo is one of those series that you must have heard it before you played it, or heard of it before you played it.
Yeah,
it was such a phenomenon. There's no way you didn't hear about Halo before you played it. No way.
Yeah.
No one stumbled across Halo.
Yeah, well,
unless they were living under a rock. The same goes for like Mario Brothers or I think another example here.
Zelda or something like that.
Yeah, this is no way someone just stumbled into what's the Zelda game? This looks interesting. No one's ever said that.
Like this, it's a hidden gem.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to.
Half-Life is such an underrated shooter.
I would love. By the way, I suddenly thought of April Fool's joke. That'd be fantastic if I wrote an article, a hidden gems article about Ocarina. That would be great.
God,
I would love. That would be such a great
Yeah.
troll article, just to see, or something else. I don't know, Halo. What could be another good example? Oh, guys, have you heard about this fighting game called Mortal Kombat? It's awesome.
Have you guys ever heard of Forza before? It's amazing.
No. Although I must say, Bad Company is kind of underrated a bit. In my
I've not heard
book,
of it myself.
anyway.
I don't know what you've been hearing. It was pretty hype.
Yeah, true.
I think Battlefield in general is fairly. It's like it's just behind Call of Duty as far as popularity goes. I understand.
When I say underrated, I mean like it died pretty quick.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Yeah.
Like it was just kind of there, and then it wasn't there, and then there's another Battlefield game, and then everybody's talking about that. Not kind of it hasn't kept in the history books, kind of thing.
I think I played. Wasn't there one called Battlefield 1942?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I played that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I was just suddenly thinking, have I actually played a Battlefield game? And then I thought I had, then I realised, oh no, that was Armed and Dangerous.
Yeah.
Which I think was called something similar. So I think it was called I can't remember. Anyway, I remember liking that, but I don't know why I'm bringing that up. But I'm just thinking if I played a Battlefield game or not. But I have.
And
But I just realised, just want to throw it out there. Most of the games you guys have mentioned, I've not played.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if my top 5 will change. Because I've heard, I mean, the most hyped game that I can think of that's been mentioned so far, apart from Republic Commando, I guess, is one that comes to mind. I've obviously played that. No, it's not obvious, but I have played that. The one that I really want to play that is, but is at the risk of suffering the old effects of overhype, is probably Modern Warfare 2.
Okay.
It's a series that I would really like to get into, but to be honest, I think the whole Call of Duty crowd has really put me off. Because when I think of Call of Duty players, and no offense to anyone listening to this, I know the majority of you guys are perfectly fine, but the ones that I always see,
definitely, like, there has been a stereotype that's arisen.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
Modern Warfare 2 was so much before that, though. In a way, though, you could almost argue that the multiplayer culture of Modern Warfare 2 gave rise to that. But definitely, it's like, I still think it's untainted by.
Do you guys know what? Potentially could offend a lot of listeners. Do you guys know what a chav is?
Oh yeah, Chad. Yeah.
No, a chav, for those who, is a kind of a stereotype here in the UK. It doesn't really exist. It's kind of more of an insult or anything. Kind of like a feckless, lazy, jobless, kind of character. Every country. Yeah, it was not quite. Kind of a bit more on his feet, but not quite. It's sort of circling the drain, if you like. Wow, I just offended a lot of people.
Midlife crisis at 20 type thing.
Yeah, every country has their version of the chav. Okay, every country has that kind of like, oh god, this guy's so obnoxious. Nobody likes. Well, this guy's an idiot. This guy's ignorant, no education. Spend more interested in wearing trendy clothes than anything else. Generally a dislikable person. That's what I think of when I think of Call of Duty fans. I can't help it because that's all I've ever seen. If I see someone wearing a Call of Duty t-shirt, it's usually some feckless moron. I can't help it. They bounce between Call of Duty and FIFA. That's all they do. That's all they play. Yeah. They call themselves a gamer, and all they do is play Call of Duty or FIFA. They bounce between the two, and maybe PUBG. I don't know, but that's all they play, and that's probably why that community is considered so toxic, because you've got all these chavs on there, just these morons, but once again, modern Call of Duty fans, I know for a fact that the majority of you guys are perfectly fine. It's just that these horrible people kind of stick out a lot more because people like me like to talk about them and hate them. All these toxic online multiplayer people that are just emotionally immature and just don't like losing in a game of any kind. Probably rage quit way too more than normal people. I
think regarded as a 12-year-old, I think is just the main thing.
Yeah, I've seen so many great videos on YouTube of people rage quitting because they get completely owned, and it's usually on Call of Duty. So unfortunately, because there is a lot of focus on that, it does make it seem like a lot of Call of Duty fan players are that toxic community, and are just happen to be playing other games. But I know for the most part, I would say 80% of gamers are tolerable, but there are those 20% of people who completely aren't, and it just seems a lot of them play Call of Duty, and
fair enough. I mean, a thing like someone who's white trash or something here is called a bogan.
That would be probably the equivalent of a chav. I would actually say that.
Oh man, I don't know. This is some interesting vocabulary that I'm trying to meld with here, because I don't know, white trash here in America kind of implies that you're not really into tech at all. An at spots would be completely foreign to someone. But
that's why games consoles are so appealing, because there's no tech in knowledge required. PC is different, but online gaming, you stick a headset on, you've got some internet. Everyone's got internet. Even if you are white trash. I'm doing air quotes there.
No, the thing
Most
is
of
like
40% these days.
here.
The meaning
well,
of
the
white
thing
trash
like,
is different.
spots is too far. Yeah, spots is too far from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I suppose you could say the meaning of, like, a bogan here is, like, someone who's jobless, hasn't had, like, just someone who's a bum, I suppose you could say.
Yeah. In Scotland, I know that an alternative term is a NED, and it's an acronym, but I can't remember what it means. Or is it NEB? I can't remember. I hope I just didn't make a mistake and say something terribly racist. But I'm pretty sure it's NED, and it's an acronym of something, but I can't remember what. And I'm probably something that's not very nice. But in fact, I'm not even sure the origin of the word chav. It might be an acronym. I don't know, because it's a strange word. CHAV doesn't seem right. Anyway, but yeah, so that seems to be primarily a UK thing, I think, where most people think of these chav people as like feckless morons, but also Call of Duty players and FIFA players.
Okay, we have a different term here for that. That's kind of a one word part of it is against the PG rating of this podcast. So
I can beep it out. No, don't. But yeah, that's that, and I think that's part of the reason why the series has gone the way it has. Because it is appealing to that kind of
it's like the younger gamer who can just jump on and scream at people and get away with it.
Because like I think the word profound is fair. I think when people think of like Modern Warfare 2, I think of like this one moment where like you have to escape a bomb, if I remember correctly, and that whole sequence is brilliant. I remember seeing videos of this and thinking, wow, that's really, really cool. Because I think you can't escape it. I don't think that's kind of the thing is like, you know, you're trying to run from inevitable but premature death here. Am I right, Taylor? Am I right in thinking this?
I think you're thinking of COD 4.
Am I? Yeah, Modern Warfare 2.
Nah, COD 4 is Modern Warfare 1.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, my bad. Okay, never mind. Anyway, but I think the series has gone from stuff like that being really dramatic, and again quite borderline profound, to kind of macho 80s action movie garbage, you know, 80s sci-fi kind of like hoorah kind of things. I mean, and kind of appealing to that macho, egotistical, testosterone-fueled player that is made up of is basically makes up the entirety of that toxic area of the online community, because they're just sad idiots who can't take being defeated, can't handle loss or anything like that, being outclassed in any way. They have to get angry and make excuses, right? And you know, and probably have a collection of broken controllers and whatnot, because they just don't want to lose even to a virtual opponent. Go on.
Yeah. I'll still hold that Modern Warfare 2 was the pinnacle of the series, so it's above all that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool.
So, like you know that game that you were talking about before, David, how you know, the desert one where you go through and do war crimes and whatnot?
Yeah.
I think you're thinking of Spec Ops: The Line.
Am I?
Maybe. It's like set in Dubai, and it's a lot of stuff happens, and it's dodgy,
yeah, it might be.
That was...
I feel like that stands out. That name stands out because I'm not familiar with it, but I mean, I feel like I would have...
Yeah.
I'm positive it was a Call of Duty game, because I'm sure there's a moment where I think you're looking for one person, but you can in theory just like take out the entire town.
Oh, I might have a lick of an idea of what you're talking about. There's like in Modern Warfare 3, you go up to I think it's in like Somalia or something. You go up to this compound or whatever, looking to one person, and it's like a warlord village type thing. You don't massacre civilians or anything, but you kind of raise the entire village getting to them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of collateral damage, you could say.
No, there were no civilians involved.
Oh, okay. What am I thinking of?
It's like outside of the exception of no Russian and everything.
Yeah,
Call of Duty never has you kill civilians.
I mean, unless it's Black Ops.
You might be right. It might be Black Ops, actually, now that I think of but positive, because I partly think that maybe because of no Russian, they thought, all right, guys, we need to go a bit bigger here. Rather than massacre a queue of people at an airport, let's actually knock it up a notch and go for a small town. And in future games, we'll nuke a country or something like that, and just like create more controversy. What's the word? Court that is that right? Yeah, that controversy, like because that got us in the news. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. And in this sequence, like you have to destroy a village, you got to kill everyone.
Fallout 76.
I honestly can't remember, but I'm positive it was a desert town, or at least you are. I'm positive you are an American Marine or Army, because I can picture the outfit, the sort of the desert camo. I can picture that. I don't know. I could be making this up. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well,
but you might be right. It could be Spec Ops.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Spec Ops. Like you
too.
go in as a Marine or whatever you are, Special Forces, and you're trying to get through the place because it's being invaded, like destroyed by sandstorms, I suppose you would say.
Oh.
And then
I'll give it a Googling later and see if I can find it. Positive I'm not making this up. But all right, cool. Oh, by the way, guys, I wanted to ask. Obviously, there were a couple of other ideas and other games that probably were possibly nipping at the heels of your top 5. So I just want to throw it out there. Have you got any, like, say, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 honorable mentions that you think should be at least maybe just 6, 7, and 8, just quickly before we wrap up? Because there were a couple that I feel like I really wanted to talk about, but obviously we can't go into too much depth. But there were definite ideas for my top 10, certainly, but not my top 5. So, do you have any honorable mentions you want to throw in?
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and start. Doom 2016.
Yeah.
Metro Last Light. Arma 3. And the Stalker series.
Cool. I think for Soldier of Fortune 2 is a great sort of a kind of hyper-violent first-person shooter in a way. You can like shoot. It's kind of dumb, really, and he was obviously criticized for it. But you can basically shoot people's legs off and their arms off and their heads off. You can do it in that order if you like, whatever you fancy. I think Far Cry Instinct specifically is really, really cool. 13 as well, a really cool cel-shaded first-person shooter for the original Xbox. Probably a little bit of an overlooked entry in the Wolfenstein series is a game called Wolfenstein Tides of War, or Return to Castle Wolfenstein Tides of War. You mentioned one already, which was going to be one of my. I already thought of it because I didn't include it in my 5. I already thought of it as an honorable mention, and that is Republic Commando. Definitely a honorable mention from me. And probably the last one I'm going to mention is probably one that I mentioned earlier. Now, the more I think about it, if I thought about it earlier, it probably would be in my top 5. Probably just bumping Tron 2.0 off the list there is more of a stealth game, actually, and that is the Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay. And just one more, Red Faction as well was going to be one of my top 5s. Medal of Honor Frontline as well was my other possible top number 5 rather. So yeah, what about you, Ant?
Well, that's funny. I was actually considering Battlefront 2, but then I realized that it was third person, so then I was like, nah.
Oh yeah, I just remember one other one. Considering called a horror game called The Suffering, but I decided not to add it because you can actually switch between third and first person view.
Yeah.
So I don't think of it as a first person shooter. I just think of it as a kind of like a multi-angle shooter. I guess I don't know what you might call a multi-view shooter. I guess would be the word for it. I don't know, dual view. But yeah. So if you want to check out some of these games, do check out some of those honorable mentions as well.
Yeah.
So guys, let's wrap up. I think how I've gone over. Way over. Or like 2.5 hours, I'm thinking. Is it 2 hours?
It
anyway,
is.
We're pushing 3.
3 hours and 14.
Wow, okay. We're actually... Shut up!
Yeah.
3 hours and 14! Oh my god, I got some editing to do. I'm not sure if I can manage it, guys. Maybe I'll split this up into 2 parts. But then again, it's a debatable topic, so it potentially could be way longer, but let's not do that. So let's wrap up. So guys, how would people get in touch with you? Anthony,
I have nowhere. I am the site. The site is me.
Yeah, there we go. So what about the Discord? Discord's got to be one, right? Discord's one. go on to cultureofgaming.com, and on the right hand side there's basically a
Big join
who's
button.
online list. Yeah, and click on that and you can join our community Discord. You can chat to myself, Taylor and Anthony and the rest of the COG team as well. So.
And it'll all
That's
be
probably
in
better.
the YouTube description as well. You can obviously check out our Facebook, like the main site Facebook, which is facebook.com/cog.net. Same with Twitter. We obviously have Twitch, which is what you're watching here. If you're watching on YouTube or whatever, it is twitch.tv/culture of gaming. And YouTube, we don't have a custom link yet, so that is some strange thing. But if you Google Culture of Gaming, our profile will come up.
Yeah, and well, I was going to say something then. I'll post a link in the. I'll be posting the episode, the current YouTube link in the actual Retro Rumble Facebook page and the Twitter as well. So I'll jump onto mine. Best place to follow the podcast is we are Retro Rumble Pod on everything. Instagram is a good place to follow because that is basically a combination of myself and the podcast. So I post a lot of my retro video game collecting shenanigans on there and stuff regarding the podcast. Same goes for my personal Instagram. It's mainly about my collecting, and that is at Atomic Space Ninja. Don't know what that name is. I just wanted a really stupid name, and that seemed really funny to me. Makes no sense, but it's great. And yeah, you can follow me on there. And yeah, Retro Rumble Pod on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram if you just want to follow the show. We're always on the there's a Retro Rumble group as well on the Discord, so if you want to chat about our top fives. Also, we would really like to hear your own top fives as well, there, listeners, or even just your top one. We don't mind. Top 3, top 10, top 26, I don't care. We just want your opinions and anything you say, or any questions for that matter. What do you think? You want to ask us any questions about these games or these games in general, send them to us on the Facebook, on the Discord, anywhere. We'll pick it up and we'll very likely read them out on the next show. Taylor, how can people follow yourself?
Alright, so I'm of course on the aforementioned community Discord for COG. My personal Twitter is at InfuriousEllecon, that is at INFERIUSELLECON, where I tweet about all sorts of things. But mostly it's my crusade against Corsair right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Past that, I'm not really anywhere else. You can find... or make sure you guys tune in to the Power Up podcast, which is Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also here on twitch.tv/culture of gaming, where we talked about more generalized gaming stuff, as well as a little bit of movie and anime stuff there.
Awesome.
Also, looks like for our session tomorrow, we got Joel and Kevin, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's going to be a good one tomorrow. And so yeah, we hope to see you guys there.
And the format's cool as well because when people come onto the show, they basically bring their own news, so you never really know what the show's going to be about. So obviously, you're going to bring the most important topics initially. But I like that format, and that's really interesting. I would really love to jump on there one day, but I never really know what I would say. I suppose a PlayStation Classic is out. That's kind of retro, right? So, or is about to be released, so I could jump on with that. Yeah. I always think I love to podcast, and I always want to jump on, but I'm thinking, what do I say? I don't play modern games. I can't. I mean, I watch some anime, I guess, and some movies. Anyway, do you guys have anything to plug? Anything coming up soon?
One more thing. Also, this podcast is also going to be on iTunes and Google Play, and all of the aforementioned. Podcasting areas like what's it called, TuneIn Radio, all that kind of stuff, because we are finally jumping on to Podbean as well, which will allow us to chuck our RSS in all of that other fun places.
And all the episodes you would have missed if you don't fancy watching them on YouTube and you'd rather download them to your phone like I do, because personally that's how I like to do it. The whole backlog, really, the other 11 episodes. As far as myself, I keep plugging this, although I'm not sure exactly when it's going to happen. For readers of my This Week in Video Game History article series, this kind of came to an abrupt end out of the blue. I'm bringing it back, but it's going to be in video form, so do keep an eye on the Discord and the Facebook and all that, and the Retro Rumble Pod Instagram and all that. Because eventually I'll be posting that. Now it'll be a weekly, basically the same as the articles, 3 events from that week in video game history, but in video form, far more interesting video form. So that's it, guys. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you about this time next week. We're not sure what our topic is going to be, actually, so it's a bit of a mystery, but again, do follow the Facebook and that, and we'll post it there.
This concludes the Friday special edition of the Power Up podcast.
So Taylor, Anthony, thank you for joining me.
No worries.
And
No worries.
we'll catch you next week, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Enjoy.
And so ends our top 5 countdown, guys. Thank you for listening. Once again, if you would like to follow us, we are available on all the social medias at Retro Rumble Pod, or you can contact us directly via our community Discord. Check the show notes for links to all of that. We would really like to hear from you and your opinions on this episode's topic, our top 5s. We want to know your top 5s, and even suggestions for topics to cover, or any questions or comments at all. Most will likely be read out in future episodes. Also, are you on Team Taylor or Team David on the subject of Half-Life? Also, apologies for the inconsistency of our streams and uploading of episodes, but we are working to improve on that always. So thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.